Hello and welcome back to Learning CSS and HTML5 by codetech.guru. Let's get you started with understanding what HTML5 is and what is CSS3. HTML5 is the newest version of HTML, and we know it was released in 2014. It's still not uh, supported by all the web browsers, and only recently it's getting partial support. It adds a diverse set of new tools for the web developer to use, and maybe by 2018 it will no longer be work in progress. And HTML5, as we know, will help us place a video directly within our web page. It's a whole lot easier, more functional, more resourceful, and there are a whole lot of things and we could do and fun we could have with it. So this is how the history of HTML has been. If the first one came out in some time of 1991, and to how some of the pages of, let's say, Apple looked. I'm not going to go over all of this in detail. You will find a lot of these resources online. I'm not going to bore you with the history of HTML, but this is something how the evolution has been in terms of how the pages looked. I've taken an example of how Apple.com looked in the year 1991 and how it looked in 1999 when HTML2 was popular, and then came HTML4 until 2008, and then in about how it looks in today. So I don't have a good picture of how Apple.com looks, but do take a look at it yourself. I'm sure you'll be able to open a browser and hit apple.com and look at it yourself. So that's about how HTML5 has evolved. It's become so much simpler, so much attention to detail has been given, and there's a host of support that's been given from the browsers. Eventually, there will be a lot more as we go. So we don't need to have or to use external plugins, although there are certain plugins that we may use, but they're not necessarily important, and there are definitely workarounds to avoid using them. HTML tries to improve the semantic definition. That means the purpose of your elements as to are they doing what they intended to do, and it tries to make the rendering of web content universal, global, in multiple languages it could be rendered, and makes it independent of the device being used. It doesn't matter if your user is viewing your page from a smartphone or a tab or a computer, PC, or a desktop. And HTML5 also intends to aim at handling web document errors in a better and a more consistent fashion. This course is all about getting your hands dirty, and with that intention, let's go. So we're going to start creating our first web page right now, right in this course, in under 1 minute from now. And to do that, I'm going to open a IDE, what we call. We'll cover this later. You can open Notepad if you're a Windows user, or text editor if you're a Mac or a Linux user, I'm sorry. And I'm using something called a Sublime. We'll be covering this in the course. For now, just watch this and have the pleasure of being able to create our first web page. So what I just typed is called an open tag of an HTML element called a header, and I'm going to call it header1, and it's the first heading element. And anything that has an open tag will have an end tag like this. So this is called an opening of an h1 tag, and this is called an ending of an h1 tag, or an h1 element. And whatever we write within this will be rendered on our browser. So the browsers understand the tags, and they know what exactly to do with the elements inside it. So I'm going to type something, let's say my first web page, and then we save this page. I'm going to do a save as, and I know where the location I need to save it, and then I type, let's say, index.html. So note that I format this with the HTML syntax it doesn't matter what name you give. I'm just going to name it index.html. We'll learn more about what index.html means. And then I've saved it in a place where I can recognize it. You can save it on your desktop, and you click on save. So okay, I already have something, so I'm going to replace that with what we have. And then when I go back to my Finder, and there we go, that's my index.html. When I open it, and it's my first web page is rendered. So what you notice is that whatever I type here is coming in. Now let me add another element here. Let's say h2, and let's say my second heading, and that becomes my second heading. Oops, Sublime adds that on its own. I save it, and then when you come and refresh this, the second heading is rendered. So whatever you put in this tag is rendered on this web page. So now what happens if I put another HTML element? I introduce another HTML element called P. P stands for paragraph, and then I end that HTML element. Oops, it's going to be P, and I end that HTML element, and then I type this is a paragraph. Now I refresh this, and oops, I didn't save it. So, and I save it. This is a paragraph. So that's how. Those are three elements that we just got introduced to, and we built our first web page. We'll see a lot more and understand the structure and best practices of building a good world-class HTML web page in the next class. See you soon.